Welcome to NFL Daily, where it was only a matter of time before myself, Gregg Rosenthal, and Nick Shook talked about all the preseason Week 1 games. We are here late on a Sunday night. Nick Shook drove many hours through the Ohio interstate roads tonight from a wedding so that we could get it in. And yes, I'm referring a little bit to that Nike ad with Shedeur Sanders. We'll get to him. We'll get to all the young quarterbacks who debuted in NFL games this weekend for the preseason. But first, I got to ask you, Nick, and just thank you for our listeners, the dedication and professionalism you have to make this show happen late on the East Coast. I appreciate you.
I was so dedicated to getting to the wedding on time that I had to take a detour to avoid traffic and ended up on like this country road with no lines, and it was only wide enough for a car and a half, and there was just cornfields around me. It was an interesting day.
Okay, but you made it back. You stayed away from the whatever alcohol was going on at that party, and you're ready to talk. Now, usually we go through 16 teams on these Sunday nights. We do the AFC. Tonight we're doing every single preseason game. So let's get going, and let's start the show by going through all the games with the rookie quarterbacks and the quarterback battles, because to me that was the most interesting football to watch over the weekend. And let's start with Jackson Dart. I think let's start with that one, Shook, because Jackson Dart, I think, made a little bit of a move, not just with Brian Daboll necessarily and against Russell Wilson, but with me. I watched that game, and I was not big on the Jackson Dart pick, was not in love with his film overall, and I just said, okay, I see you. I see you, Jackson Dart. Show me more next week. That's a nice first start. I know he came off the bench, but first time we've seen him in a Giants uniform.
Yeah, I think it was Danny Kelly from The Ringer who described him as a point guard passer before the draft, and that's exactly what I saw from this game against the Bills over the weekend. Like, it wasn't just the touchdown pass to little Jordan Humphrey, which I think was just a throw that he put it in the right spot and the receiver went and got the ball as the DB fell down. It was more the throws in between where you just saw him step up into the pocket with confidence, and he also used his legs and took off for some gains there, especially when there was wide open field in front of him. You know, using his instincts to play football. That's what I really liked out of him, not getting overwhelmed by the speed of the game, not trying to do too much. I agree. I think he made a little bit of progress, at least. I think I expected a little bit more from him than you did, but he still made some progress with me in this game too.
Well, we also heard to start camp that he just wasn't getting rid of the ball quickly, and he got over the hump after a handful of days of camp, just like you want, and you could see it. There were a few plays where he sailed his pass, and I saw too much of that in the college tape, and there were a few plays that he was a little late. I only say that to point out it wasn't a perfect performance, but he had a number of really nice throws, a number of plays that showed athleticism, a number of times he got to his second read. The operation was good, and hearing Brian Daboll talk at the press conference after the game really got my attention. Here's him asked about Jackson Dart.
It's about what I thought he would do. Efficient, effective, aggressive, confident in the pocket. Some stuff we can work on, but he's doing good.
Ooh, I think he's in love.
Yeah.
I haven't heard Brian Daboll say anything nice about a quarterback in years. At the end of that conversation, by the way, he said, "I'm just glad he's with us," and I'm like, "Oh, that is Daboll's guy, right?"
He likes him. Clear the decks, Matt Flynn. Russell Wilson's coming to take your job, except this time it's Jackson Dart taking Russell Wilson's job. We got more preseason to go, but yeah, you know, Daboll's usually a pretty frosty guy, so for him to be succinct in his response, but also, you know, confident in what he saw from his guy, I think that suggests that we might see a little bit more, and he might be gaining in that race.
Yeah, I think he's fighting against whatever version of Russell Wilson we see by week 3 or so. It would be shocking if Dart got the week 1 start. Although after 1 week of Seahawks preseason, back when Russ was the guy, the conventional wisdom was not him getting that job. So you never know if the next 2 weeks he totally balled out. We'll see. He, as good as he looked, he wasn't the best rookie on the Giants. Abdul Carter had 3 pass rushes in that game, and he had 3 pressures, and 2 of them were against Deion Dawkins, who was just in the top 50 players in the NFL, according to NFL Network. And he just like looked awesome. He's just caught my eye. When Russ was in the game, by the way, it was like a bunch of bombs and mostly checkdowns. I mean, that's all we've heard that he's doing at camp is just like occasional deep shots and checkdowns. So it was a lot of checkdowns. Tyrone Tracy really seems like he is the guy there because Cam Scatterbo has been out. And then for the Bills on the other side, the Giants won this game, by the way, 34-25. The big news, Shook, is just that Sean McDermott admitted he wanted James Cook to play, and James Cook did not want to play. He did put on his uniform, but he hasn't practiced all week, and he's probably noticed 3 other guys in his draft class for the Bills have gotten long-term extensions. He hasn't, and so that it's getting pretty awkward there. I'm not sure how this ends.
It's also a strange expectation to believe that a guy that is refusing to practice because of contract dispute is suddenly going to play football in a preseason game, and where the risk of injury exists and where he hasn't done anything on the field all week. I thought that was a little bit strange. I also, the longer I think about the whole James Cook situation, I think more about the 3-down back issue and the pass blocking issue and the allocation of funds for a team that's already over the cap right now. And I don't think that deal gets done. I don't know if they figure out a way to, come to terms here before the season starts.
I agree. I don't think they're going to pay him. I think they've made that clear, and so I'm not sure where it goes. A couple other just items. Joey Bosa played in that game, made a couple plays. Tre'Davious White also started at cornerback but did not look good. They have a rookie defensive tackle, TJ Sanders, who's looked pretty good for the Bills. The Mitchell Trubisky versus Mike White backup battle rages on. And one other little note from the Giants I wanted to mention is Montrell Washington's had a good camp. A guy who's bounced around, was on the Chiefs practice squad. I think he's going to make this team. He made a couple plays there. He might be their backup slot. So let's get to the Browns, because your Browns were back in the spotlight. I don't think it's going to happen that much this season, Shook, unless Shedeur Sanders starts some games. And after his performance on, what was that, Friday night? I think he's got a better chance of starting some games this season. Certainly don't expect that to happen week 1, but like Jackson Dart, I think it was a good step in the right direction for him.
Yeah, obviously he's going to be a lightning rod for attention, especially in the preseason when people are looking for things to talk about. And I think the stage he had on Friday night, with the eyeballs on him in a Friday night contest against the Panthers, gave him the opportunity to show what he could do. And I was very much surprised. I was impressed by what he did. I don't know. I just didn't expect all that much. He looked confident. The speed of the game did not overwhelm him. We all saw the touchdown pass, the second one, and I thought that was incredibly impressive. In fact, when I was watching that game live, I let out an audible wow, just because the ability to sense an unblocked rusher, trust your running back to slide over and pick him up, reset your feet, keep your head moving through the progression and finding a guy over the middle and letting it rip and throwing it in the right spot, down and away, protecting your receiver from the safety. That's stuff that you just typically don't see from a guy playing in his first NFL game, preseason or otherwise. There was also that throw down the sideline to Luke Flourier, Kent State Golden Flash, baby, that was completed because Luke made a great catch. But there was a number of I wouldn't call them splash plays, but plays that you would watch on a clip on social media, a highlight reel play, that I just didn't expect from him. Even there was a third down play where he evaded the rush and spun backward to avoid 2 guys, got pushed out of bounds by Nick Scorton for what registered as a sack. I was just surprised that he was able to extend a play and evade guys. So very much impressed, very, very fascinated by how this is going to affect the Browns quarterback situation. Of course, locally, everybody wanted to come up to talk to me about it this past 2 days.
Oh, okay, at the wedding. Shedeur. So what were you saying?
Shedeur needs to start. Shedeur needs to start. And I'm like, I frankly would like to see him play the entire preseason, because what are you going to get out of, and, Dylan Gabriel needs to get on the field eventually, and I guess Kenny Pickett does, but you know what you have in Joe Flacco. So give Shedeur a ton of snaps and really let him prove it. I don't think it affects what they end up doing in week 1, but it definitely makes it much more interesting to me, where I thought that they would just be Flacco, Pickett, and throw the rookies in if they had to. It makes it a much more intriguing situation.
Yeah, Shedeur is not like any other 5th round pick that we've ever seen. First of all, I can't imagine that Nike has ever thrown up a Twitter ad with Shedeur kind of with his fist pumped. It says only a matter of time. And that was sent out. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check that out. The uniforms look clean. I know there's another part of this that bothers you, Shook, though.
Yeah, okay, so look, I understand the play on time with the Shedeur watch celebration and everything. Folks, social media-wise, can we stop capitalizing letters at the start of words for emphasis? It's grammatically incorrect. Time should not be capitalized here. Do not do this.
I don't even know if we need a period, because that's not really a sentence either. Only a matter of time capitalized. I hear you there. So he is different than your average rookie quarterback. But another reason why he's different, and I was talking about this with Daniel Jeremiah last week on 40s and free agents, was he was the 20th or 22nd ranked player on Daniel Jeremiah's board, for instance. Like everyone wants to make fun of Mel Kiper, who had him number 1 overall, whatever it was. Like a lot of people who know a lot about football and were putting everything that came along with Shedeur and to the side, like thought like that's a first round quarterback. Maybe it's a late first round quarterback. Maybe it's an early second round quarterback even. But like he had real talent. Dylan Gabriel, by the way, 144th on DJ's board. And everything that we've heard out of training camp is that, yeah, Shedeur just looks like a more talented, ready-to-go guy. Dylan Gabriel's kind of looked like a disaster by all accounts. And yet they're doing this weird thing. Even though Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel weren't healthy enough to do 11-on-11s and full team stuff last week, they were just running them through the 7-on-7 still, even though they're not 100% like ahead of Shedeur. It was very weird. Kevin Stefanski is answering questions after the game, doesn't want to give him much more credit. We'll update it through the week, how they adjust the snaps and everything. But you mentioned a couple of the great throws. My favorite throw by Shedeur was the one out of his own end zone where he absolutely was under pressure, had to make a subtle move inside the pocket and drilled it over the middle with a little bit of anticipation, 25, 30 yards up the field. Great throw. And so there were 3 or 4 great throws. There were a couple groaners too. Yep. And like what, he airmailed one where he's on the move. He's not a great, thrower on the move always. When he was running backwards, taking a sack a couple times and avoided a sack one of the times, like he still looked like a rookie. It was an amazing game. I loved what he said afterwards, Shook. He said, it was great to be out there. I'd give it a C+. Like there's a lot to work on. And I was like, I kind of see that. I would adjust it for rookie and, grading and make it like a B+, but it wasn't a perfect performance. It just is exactly what you want to see out of a young quarterback, which is, okay, you're doing some difficult things really well. The mistakes weren't that bad, and you look like you belong, like you said. So I just want to see more. I think Flacco should be the starter, and he should basically be the Jackson Dart of this team, fighting against the future Flacco to replace Flacco at some point in the season.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't want to spend too much more time on this because we have a lot of games to get through. But at the same time, I do want to push back on one narrative that kind of took off when it was announced that he was going to start in that game, which is that the Browns were setting him up to fail because they hadn't given him any first team reps. I think it was Mary Kay Cabot who said that's not true at all. Because while the Browns have been working with Flacco and Pickett and Gabriel over here with the 1s, 2s, and 3s, Shedeur's been on the field over on another field over on the side with Kevin Stefanski paying very close attention to him, working through his own set of situations with, bottom of the depth chart guys, but he's paying more attention to him than an average rookie or an average quarterback. And I think we saw the benefit of that even in that first game. So again, I'm very fascinated by how this is going to play out. I also caution, don't raise the expectation through the roof yet. Let this kid grow.
I agree. Next week might not go as well, and then suddenly we'll just be back to where we are. But there were just little things like looking off the safeties, all this stuff. Flacco, by the way, said, I played my best football this week in the joint practices against the Panthers, and reportedly Flacco looked pretty good because I got more reps. Like, I need more reps. He was pretty clear about that. So to me, it feels like you have another joint practice this week. It's like, give Flacco those reps and then give Shedeur more reps and see what happens. Anything else in this game that caught your eye? Bryce Young was in this game briefly, a beautiful throw to Tetaroa McMillan. So any of the teams that threw out some starters, that was exciting. That wasn't a touchdown to Tetaroa McMillan. It was a great improv play by Bryce to Jalen Coker for the improv. So a little bit of like Bryce continuing how he finished last season.
Yeah, I think from Tet, which I believe his nickname that everybody wants to establish is
T-Mac, not Tet.
Yes, so T-Mac. He made a great play down the sideline. That's his strength. That's what we knew his strength was coming out of college. Middle of the field, I think, still needs some work. There was an incompletion early in that game where he kind of got alligator armed. Maybe wasn't exactly in the right place at the right time, but I see the potential with him as well. On the Brown side, I already mentioned Luke Flourier. Remember Gage Larvadain, the guy that I mentioned last week? He had a touchdown on a jet sweep. Keep an eye on him. I think he's going to make the team. And then the last bit of curiosity from the Browns is, like, if you look at this roster, we talked about, like, oh, maybe a couple roster spots aren't going to be worried about sacrificing to keep a fourth quarterback. Nick Needham is on this team. Demonte Casey's on this team. Nick Needham had an interception. Just weird, curious veterans on this depth chart that I kind of just enjoy seeing playing on the field.
Those are guys I could imagine making the team. They kind of need more guys.
Yeah,
like
that's
that. By the way, the
exactly.
Brownies with a big win. They're feeling good. They're undefeated in the preseason.
They went undefeated in the winless season too. They went undefeated in the preseason.
Ravens 29, Colts 16. This is going up this high in the show because of what happened with Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. Not only did Anthony Richardson leave the game with a pinky injury, which was not serious. He was already back at practice on Saturday and Sunday, but Daniel Jones comes in, and Daniel Jones throws for about 7 yards per attempt and completes 47% of his passes. Does that remind you of anyone, by the way? 7 yards per attempt, 47% of his passes?
Oh, God, I can't think of a name off the top of my head. Who are you alluding to?
I am alluding to Anthony Richardson like last year.
Oh, yeah. You're right. That went right over my head. I should have known. That mixed bag from Daniel Jones, by the way. A couple of nice throws, couple of... I mean, when he gets the ball out quick, it's all right. Couple of miscommunications with guys. He loves AD Mitchell, and I also am not 100% confident that he knows how to execute the RPO on a slant. He did it once successfully, and he did it once very poorly. So this is kind of the Daniel Jones that we've come to know over the last few years.
Yes, maybe I'm just seeing things, and I'll watch the next couple weeks too. He was so bad after his knee injury coming back last year. I thought played with so little confidence that this seemed like incrementally better. Maybe just like a little more comfortable in this. Like you just kind of look back to the older version of Daniel Jones, which is, I'm just saying he made a couple decent throws. He had a decent pocket feel on a couple plays, and what Richardson did, not being able to see the oncoming rusher and changing the protection, it became a whole Twitter story for the weekend. All the former quarterbacks criticizing him and then some defending him. My takeaway from that is just like that's the type of thing that's going to get you benched in this battle, that like not being able to finish a game, because he's only started 15 games in the last 2 years because he just can't stay on the field, and it's already changed how they're going to rotate the quarterbacks. That was supposed to be a quarter and a half for Richardson. So now next week instead, Daniel Jones will still start. Shane Steichen announced Sunday and get 2 series, which is actually a decent amount. And then Richardson will come in. So that means Daniel Jones is playing more with the starters. And even though Richardson's getting more time next week, I just think it's not setting up well for Anthony Richardson.
And 2 series, I know that you're trying to swap the rotation, but 2 series suggests to me that Daniel Jones is ahead right now. I may be reading too much into it, but that's usually what you give to a starter or somebody who's leading a competition. You need to see more from the other guy. And I know it's because Richardson got knocked out of this game, but that doesn't bode well for Anthony Richardson right now.
Right. And he just Richardson just a couple times, even in those 4 plays, he had one really nice place, but he just has that Ryan Tannehill thing where he just stands in there.
Yes.
And Cam Newton, and he just doesn't move. And those 2 guys could take big hits and throw and make it work. Richardson hasn't been able to stay on the field. Tyler Warren just looks like he's going to be good right away. Ashton Dulin had a nice night. And then the biggest news for the Colts, other than Richardson in that game, was they lost a rookie cornerback, Justin Wally, for the season. It wasn't in the game, but they announced it after the game. And he was reportedly, according to James Boyd at The Athletic, slated to start, which was news to me, but a 3rd-round pick that was expected to start. They have a couple injuries at cornerback, so that is a concern for them. They're a candidate to potentially sign someone, maybe a Stephon Gilmore, over the next couple of weeks. For the Ravens, didn't play their starters. Keaton Mitchell looked awesome. He is on the comeback trail. They have a really good backfield there. And then it's caught my eye that Lamar Jackson's just had an uneven camp, according to the reporters there and according to Lamar Jackson. He said during the broadcast, we're right where we need to be. I believe him, but reportedly some frustrations on Sunday, and that the defense has gotten the better of them quite a bit, which just something to notice. Just something to note.
Yeah, we'll keep tracking it. I'm not too worried about the team that was incredibly explosive last year.
I'm not either, especially now adding Keaton Mitchell to the mix. If you could watch one running back over this weekend, I would suggest Keaton Mitchell, because to me, he's a really talented player who started to pop 2 years ago. It took him really a full season to get over that. And if he's number 3 in a good backfield behind Derrick Henry and Justice Hill, it just gives them even more weaponry. So the Ravens win that game, and the Ravens, they had that long preseason streak. So
start a new one.
Get another one going. All right, Saints Chargers. We'll be quick on this. I went to the game today. At one point, late in the first half, it was 3-0. I think the two teams had combined for about 150 yards from scrimmage. It was ugly, and the Chargers end up winning this game because of their defense. But man, the Saints offense couldn't get anything going. We're told that they want to be a running team, and they just could not run the ball at all. Spencer Rattler was their leading rusher today, Nick Shook. And Rattler, I don't think he did much wrong, but he didn't, score any points. Part of it was they got stuffed, on a couple runs near the goal line, or else he would have. He took a big hit trying to run one in and came up about a yard short on third down. He didn't do much wrong. And then he came out of the game. Tyler Shuck came in a 2-minute drill, made a couple nice plays, got them moving down the field, and got a field goal out of that. And then in the second half, he threw a pick six and then threw a long touchdown after that. So I think the takeaway, Shuck was much more up and down. Rattler was just kind of, shooting for par, not very exciting. And I don't think there's much clarity there in their quarterback battle. My sense is that Shuck is like making up a little bit of the ground that he might have lost over the first couple of weeks of camp.
Yeah, I was spending some time just kind of pondering their situation today as it related to Derek Carr. And I know it's the preseason and, your top 2 or 3 receivers aren't playing this game, but I'm starting to understand why Derek Carr was sold on retirement, like on walking away from this situation.
It's just not nice, bro.
It's not going to be a pretty situation with this team this year. Hopefully we get a little bit more clarity on the quarterback competition in the next couple of weeks.
Shout out to the woman few rows in front of me wearing the Derek Carr shirt today. I just feel like that doesn't age well. I just feel like
hasn't gotten any new gear. It's still the preseason. She needs time to get some new gear. She needs to know who the quarterback's going to be.
But I just feel like that's not going to be popular with other Saints fans. I have noticed how quiet Trey Harris, the second-round pick of the Chargers, have been in these games. Him and Keandre Lambert-Smith, both in this game, but couldn't get many catches. Taylor Heineke was absolutely awful. Trey Lance came in and led a touchdown drive that was just all Trey Lance scrambling. So Trey Lance has looked better than Heineke because this is the first we saw of Heineke, and it was bad. And I was sitting there thinking, and all these people, and I know most of them got in on the secondary market for cheap, but I just kept thinking, like, it's amazing the NFL keeps getting away with this. Right?
Do I value my job? No, I agree.
No, you know what? This one is the easiest take to have because you know who says this all the time? Our boss's boss, Roger Goodell. He always is saying how bad the product is of the preseason. Like, and just like, man, they made the people pay full price. Like some people, or the season ticket holders, had to like pay for this game. It's terrible. It's not. I mean, there's little fun things to it, but
as long as we're absolved of guilt here, there's been some preseason games I went to when I was in high school that almost every year just got interrupted by like an hour and a half thunderstorm. And I'd show up sometimes or like grade school, I'd show up after football practice on a Thursday to go watch Browns Giants, and it would storm for an hour and a half. Like, yeah, I mean, that's the fun in it. The fun in it is getting to the second half. Yes. Half the stadium's empty, and you don't even know who the hell number 47 is that just made that great play, who's probably not going to make the team.
It's a cool thing for kids. I brought my son Walker, and you can get closer than you maybe normally would, obviously for cheaper, and it's just laid back, and you're just watching some football, and it is cool to see how fast it moves up close. So there is part of me that still loves it, but still amazing they get away with it. The biggest ovation by far of the entire day was when on the Jumbotron they showed Keenan Allen, the latest addition to the Chargers wide receiver room, a legend. The other legend they had out for the game was Chargers kicker Nick Novak. That was the legend.
Oh, that's a deep cut. As long as we didn't get another letter from Jim Harbaugh stating the team's intentions.
No, they didn't do that this year. I was very curious. Good memory from a year ago. Let's take a quick break, and we'll speed things up on the other side. But these were the quarterback battles we were into. Back on NFL Daily, our first preseason recap show. 2 more to go. I was sitting there watching the Chargers thinking, man, like their preseason already seems so long. This is already their third game, Nick. It just feels like it's too much. The Hall of Fame game already seems like a while ago. So we started talking about quarterback battles. Our next two games are just young quarterbacks I'm very interested in during the preseason, and that's Cam Ward of the Titans and then J.J. McCarthy of the Vikings. So let's start with the Titans game, the Bucs, with a big win against Tennessee. But I liked what I saw for the most part out of Cam Ward. Considering the reports out of camp for the Titans this, preseason and training camp, I think it was a nice shot of encouragement that he had a solid preseason performance. Again, it's small sample size. It's 2 drives, but he did have one long touchdown drive that included, I would say, 3 good throws and showed some high-level stuff for a first-time appearance.
Yeah, the running theme between these next 2 games is, damn, I wish I saw that young quarterback play a little bit more than he did, because J.J. McCarthy didn't play very much in the Minnesota game either. One of those 3 throws, it almost mirrored his college tape at Miami, where he had all day to throw in the pocket and scan the field. And I'm not using this. This is not a negative, but
that was not one of my tape. 3, by the way. I was that was kind of a pass. Okay. I hear you though.
All right, yeah, and like he surveys and then he makes the right decision. But he does this hesitation. He double clutches and then rips a bullet to his intended target for a big gain. And I was like, okay, there's the arm strength. There's why he was the number 1 pick. But there's also what I saw at Miami. So again, I want to see a bigger sample size. If it were up to me, I'd super sim. I'd simulate straight to week 1 of the regular season so I could just see what Cam Ward looks like in a live game beyond the preseason. But encouraging stuff.
I hear you. I mean, I could say that for all of this. But we can't, unfortunately, just sim to the regular season. The 3 throws I meant were, so that one was the 27-yarder to Calvin Ridley, who, by the way, played, I believe, 1 series or 2 series and had 50 yards on 3 catches. So, he was doing everything. But Ward had another play where he got to his second read pretty quick, looked outside, then found the guy over the middle, got to it. And then he hit a 3rd and 9 and a 3rd and 6 where he hit guys in stride. They weren't always the first read. It was on time and nothing crazy, but kind of showing different clubs in the golf bag. Whereas Joe Milton, for instance, of the Cowboys, we'll get to him later. He's all 2-iron,
Yeah.
He's all driver. I don't know what it is.
Rip it.
Cam Ward, he had one, where it wasn't perfectly accurate, but it was close enough, but he layered it in over an underneath defender. That was the throw that he needed on that. And so just nothing major, but liked it. Also, Tajay Spears, who supposedly is having a good camp, the backup running back for the Titans, is out with a high ankle sprain. So that is disappointing. And yeah, the bigger takeaways from this game, unfortunately, were injuries. Rashad White, Nick, is out with a groin injury for a little while. Don't know if you had anything else from this game that caught your eye.
He had a nice run before he went out in that game, too. Sean Tucker, my guy, who's kind of buried in the depth chart. He's a situational running back, big bulldozing back, had a really nice run that almost went for a touchdown. I think it was the next play or 2 plays later. He scores from 2 yards out. That was fun to see. Emeka Egbuka tallies his first reception as a Buccaneer, a contested catch, really nice. I thought that Tennessee got away with pass interference on his other target. The Buccaneers obviously put up a lot of points. Kyle Trask ripping the ball over the field. But yeah, that's essentially it. One last point, actually. Linebacker Nick Jackson, undrafted linebacker, I believe he's out of Iowa. 6 tackles, 1 sack, and one of the most impressive interceptions you're going to see, a la TJ Watt, maybe Aiden Hutchinson off the edge. Just ball gets deflected or whatever. He just puts his one arm up in the air and snags it. If you haven't seen it, watch the highlights from this game just for that play. It's worth it.
Okay. I literally have not seen that play. And I guess this late 29-7 Bucs victory just lost my interest at a certain point. Yeah, I like Egbuka making a play. By the way, Cam Ward's out there. The number 1 offense, at least for now, is Tyler Lockett, number 2, Van Jefferson, number 3. In the year 2025, what are we doing here? What are we doing here, Titans? Let's let those young guys play. That's what the Vikings are doing. J.J. McCarthy, you mentioned it. Not a ton to take away from one drive, but Kevin O'Connell was encouraged that the operation was good. And I kind of noticed that. I was just like, okay, this just looks like a normal NFL drive. And he had one nice throw where he was running to his left. He had one deep out to to Jordan Addison rather, which wasn't right on target, but showed some nice anticipation, and he ripped it, and had a bad throw too mixed in there. Again, it's one drive. They got into field goal range. Like, okay, let's move it on, and he'll probably play a little bit more next week.
The bad throw was a drive killer. It was on third down. He missed a guy that he had open. But he also did what J.J. McCarthy did at Michigan, which is pick up a fourth down with his legs. He threw from multiple different platforms. Another young guy who looked comfortable. And all in all, given the small sample size, I think Kevin O'Connell has reason to be encouraged. Again, I would like to see more, but Kevin O'Connell doesn't like to play most of his guys in the preseason, coming from that Sean McVay tree. So probably not going to see a ton of him, but I believe to this point, they have reason to be confident that JJ is going to, be prepared for, week one as their starter.
Yeah, unfortunately, they suffered a major injury in that game to the reserve receiver, Rondale Moore. And we're still waiting, I believe, to get confirmation. But almost immediately, the team indicated that it was serious. And he was out all of last season as well. He was probably their number 4, number 5 receiver. Lucky Jackson is a former XFL guy who right now is probably your number 3 receiver in week 1 because Jordan Addison is going to be suspended. So that's unfortunate for Rondale Moore. 2 straight seasons missed because of injuries. You hate to see that. Sam Howell, by the way, who's been getting picked on a lot by the Vikings reporters that go to practice and has been losing snaps in practice to Brett Rippon, played very well in the game. So maybe he's just a gamer. And Brett Rippon,
what the hell?
So maybe he's got that backup job back. I didn't have a ton on the Texans, but I did reach out, Nick, to our friend Seth Payne, just for like a Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins update, because it's been quiet. I'm just like, what is going on with them? And he noted how Noel had a nice run after catch in this game, that they have been good in practice. He does think Higgins is going to end up starting for this team. So even though I haven't heard a lot, it does feel like those guys are going to be in the spots that you expected going into the season, maybe the third and fourth receiver, and then after that, it's these guys like John Mechie and maybe Braxton Berrios fighting for spots.
Yeah, I actually felt like Mechie and Berrios took greater advantage of their opportunities in this game. Mechie was the most targets in this receiving core. He seemed to be the most frequent contributor, or at least the most attention paid to by whoever was throwing in passes, whether it was Davis Mills or you continue to go down the depth chart all the way to Keaton Slovis. But Berrios, it's interesting because when you're trying to build these rosters and these position groups, you think like, can we have balance in different archetypes out here to really fill out our group? And because there's so much uncertainty with how they're going to build out this group going into the season outside of Nico Collins and I guess Christian Kirk, I like the idea of Berrios making this team as just a slot guy that you can do a number of different things with if you want to get creative offensively. He had a good game. He caught a nice pass on the goal line and then barreled into the end zone for a touchdown. Just felt like a strong day that maybe might make the Texans say, maybe he does deserve a spot on this roster.
He's one of those guys that will be on a roster. I don't know if they could get like a 6th round conditional for him or something like that if he can't make this roster, but he will be on a roster. The offensive line, maybe some steps forward. Ursery has caught Seth's attention. Again, I'm getting information from the man himself. And while I was checking his content out, while I was texting him, he had a great interview. I recommend people check out on his YouTube page, Seth Payne, with D'Amico Ryans, where, among other things, D'Amico Ryans says he's gotten all the energy vampires away from the Houston Texans. If you're an energy vampire and you're sucking that energy, I feel that, D'Amico Ryans. Life is too short to be around energy vampires. He's gotten him out of the Texans.
And if you surround yourself with somebody like that, you can feel yourself getting drained over time. I'm now curious, is that a veiled shot at like a Stephon Diggs or somebody? I don't know. I'm just thinking. I have a couple of notes from this game.
No, they talked up. They seem to like Stephon Diggs.
Okay. I don't know. I mean,
maybe
calling
you're right.
Energy vampires. I don't know. It's a pretty broad term.
The rest of the games don't have as big time quarterback takeaways, but we do have a few ties to talk about. The Bears and Dolphins played on Sunday. They tied. I thought it was noteworthy that the Bears played Colston Loveland only 6 snaps, like with the very, close to starters. Some starters, there were starters on the offensive line. Like a lot of teams, they mixed, but they didn't start Caleb Williams. But Luther Burden played much more in this game. Braxton Jones was first up at left tackle. They're trying to figure out their left tackle. And Luther Burden continues to make plays, whether it is in practice or in the preseason. You could see that juice that he had on the field against the Dolphins.
Yeah, it was a bit of a rocky outing for the Bears offense overall, but I mean, that's what you get when you're rolling with Tyson Bagent, I guess, as your first string quarterback in this situation. I would like to go on the Dolphins side real quick. Congratulations to Alexander Mattison. Not only did they swap you 1-for-1, not in a trade, but by signing you with Raheem Mostert, but they also gave you Raheem Mostert's old role, which is goal line vulture. He had a 1-yard touchdown run in this game. So that was interesting standout there. And by the way, we talked about this. I think you said this, that Dolphins, people that were at Dolphins camp had gotten excited by what they'd seen from Quinn Ewers.
Yes.
Don't put on this tape, because Zach Wilson and then compared to Quinn Ewers, night and day difference in terms of quality. He has a long way to go. It did not look good for him.
Which is rough, because Zach Wilson went 5 for 9 with 4 sacks taken.
Yeah. Wearing
Quinn
0,
Ewers
by
went
the way.
5 for 18 with 2 sacks taken and 2 fumbles. And it continues a weird week for the Dolphins. Jordan Brooks and a teammate fought at practice in Chicago. And then more importantly, maybe the most interesting thing I saw all week was that the Bears felt like they dominated that joint practice with the Dolphins, especially the Bears defense, who picked off Tua 3 times. I don't think Tua necessarily would have started this preseason game, but they had such a bad joint practice, they sent him out there, even without Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle ready to play. And by the way, their first drive gets all the way to the end, and then it gets stuffed in the goal line on 4 straight runs, 3 of them right near the goal line, and that's bringing up all the bad memories for the Dolphins. They did cash in later, but when Tua was in, it was like their old short yardage, woes are right there. But from the Bears side, the Bears players said on Tuesday it was their own practice. It was the most intense practice in 10 years in Chicago. Most intense practice ever. They were all fired up. And then when they came out for the joint practice, both sides reportedly played really well. And so maybe it's a little bit of that offense, especially in the team in general under Ben Johnson, kind of turning a corner.
I think it's really interesting how coordinators take on the traits of the coaches they used to work under, because Ben Johnson is pulling right from the Dan Campbell playbook with his entire camp with the Bears, including that super intense practice that they had on Tuesday. Beat reporters were going to social media as soon as it was over saying, I've never covered a practice this intense in my career. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second here. And they all acted, all the players, business as usual. We're just out there competing. But it was to prepare them for the joint practices and then prepare them for what they were going to see on the field in their preseason game. And that goal line stand kind of told me it's kind of working. There's a lot of gusto out of this camp about, forming an identity around toughness, it seems, which is very much right out of the Campbell playbook. So I'm really curious to see, how does this look in the first portion of the regular season?
Me too. I like what I'm hearing. We'll see. The Caleb of it all, we'll see if he plays much in the preseason or not, but they sat him this week, and we've said it a lot of times on this show. The joint practices in a lot of ways have replaced the preseason games for some teams, although you are seeing just a little bit of a uptick in preseason play from some, like a Tua, that normally aren't playing in the preseason. Just a little bit of an uptick you saw around the league this week, I thought, for some veterans. The Broncos and 49ers played a football game. The Broncos won that game 30-9, and I saw some Broncos fans honking like, all right, we were looking awesome. I mean, give me a break. You were down 9-0 with Bo Nix against the 49ers backups. I actually watched that.
Bo Nix got flagged for a safety in the end zone because of a penalty.
Bo Nix,
the starting offense didn't look great, guys.
I mean, it didn't. None of this matters that much, the results, but you are watching the process, watching who plays first. And yeah, for what it's worth, when Bo Nix was in there, it was a punt, a safety. He almost threw an interception. He threw 11 passes for 31 yards. They were down 9-0, and they tried to leave him in to leave on a more positive note. And I think he did lead a field goal drive, but they didn't cash it in. And that was all against backups of the 49ers, who only even left their backups in for a couple drives. Mac Jones had a beauty, a 50-yard throw to Jordan Watkins, the great touchdown drive on their first drive. He played one more drive, and then the 49ers, I don't think they crossed the 50 the rest of the game.
No.
For real.
No,
they didn't score another point. I don't think they crossed the 50 the rest of the game after that first drive.
It's very fun in preseason action how once guys cycle in and out, how the pace of the game can just change immediately. Like Jarrett Stidham, shout out to Stiddy, comes in with a 14 for 15, 136-yard, 2-touchdown performance. All that experience from his past in the NFL shining in the preseason. But that's the type of stuff that happens in preseason games. It was interesting. Threw a touchdown pass to Trent Sherfield, former 49er, catching touchdown pass at Levi Stadium.
There you go.
That was nice.
Sean Payton said after the game, there's 14 things I'm ticked off about related to this trip, and none of them have to do with the game. That was a mystifying statement to me. Everyone in the Broncos organization is worried. What is he so ticked off about that has nothing to do with the game? It had something to do with like the trip, the operation, like
catering.
I don't know.
You know, maybe the post-game meal in the bowels of Levi Stadium wasn't good.
He was,
from my
I don't know.
experience, it's pretty good there.
He said he was ticked off. RJ Harvey, I thought, didn't look great. He is reportedly the RB2 behind J.K. Dobbins. Not a big deal, but it was like a little indecisive. Sometimes with these running backs, you see him in the preseason, you're like, ooh, I see it. But that didn't happen for him. I mentioned that long throw to Watkins. Michael Williams got hurt at 49ers camp, and he's going to be out a week. And then a couple of their defensive tackles who, they want to step up. Alfred Collins and C.J. West had very quiet games, played a lot and really didn't make much of an impact. So they want to see some improvement there. Let's go to the Eagles and the Bengals. And I'm going to lead this game talk with something that didn't happen during this game. It happened Sunday with the Eagles. Unfortunately, Landon Dickerson left practice on a cart, was their team scrimmage at the stadium, and we will see what happens there, but that is the bedrock of their team, their offensive line, and they're already starting a new guard, Tyler Steen, on the right side. So they obviously, Nick, just are hoping for the best for Landon Dickerson.
Yeah, Dickerson has been one of the constants as they've cycled out, interior offensive linemen, especially over the last few years. Jason Kelce retiring and replacing them accordingly, and like you said, Steen coming in at right guard to replace Mekhi Becton. He's the guy that you can definitely count on to get the job done. One of the better guards in the NFL. So not good news for them. We obviously know what they have at tackle. It's just, this is the strength of their team is in their trenches, and it builds out from there, especially on the defensive side. But offensively, losing a guy like that, definitely concerns you at this point in the season. I mean, we're in the preseason right now.
That's why you're a pro. I mean, I know you were driving back for the wedding when that happened. There's no clue. I don't think that you were aware of that until I just threw it on you. But
You're absolutely right. And I actually blanked on the name of Cam Jurgens until I just looked it up right now. And I don't know how I blanked on him because he was my favorite center at that combine.
No, but you already, I know to talk about this barn burner. 34-27, Eagles get the win. I mean, Tanner McKee is that dude. I made a joke on Twitter last week when Nate Tice, my friend, was wondering, like, why didn't the Browns just get Tanner McKee? And he said this a week ago. Like, it was insane that they gave up something for Kenny Pickett. Why didn't they get Tanner McKee? And I was like, Tanner McKee was untouchable. Tanner McKee is that dude. I was only half kidding. I think the Eagles love Tanner McKee. I know he was behind Pickett last year, but he has only been awesome when he's played. And then when he played in that Eagles game, and I think it was his first throw, certainly his first touchdown to A.J. Brown, like, he just went for it. Touch, timing, like, I really like him. I think he's a guy that I'd feel confident in running that system. And he was awesome in this game for what it's worth against the Bengals starters. The Bengals had what happened you don't want in the preseason, Shook, which is that your starters got steamrolled by the other team's backups, which is what happened to them. Their starting defensive players got steamrolled by the Eagles' offensive backups.
Yeah, that's concerning considering that all the talk in Bengals camp was this defense might actually be good.
Right.
And then Tanner McKee lights you up. Not great for them. I keep thinking about the difference in appearance between Jalen Hurts and Tanner McKee and how they could both operate that offense. And I'm just
you know what? They did a tush push, though. They finished the drive with a tush push.
Well, he's got 5 more inches on him to get it across the goal line, so it doesn't shock me.
He is a tall dude. It kind of does. It doesn't shock me, but you knew it was Nick Sirianni. Just like it's the first, drive of the defending champions, and
after they win the tush push case in the offseason.
Exactly. He just wanted to. I mean, they do have a lot of tall guys on this team. Johnny Wilson, 6'7", just had a beautiful like Moss type of play where he just plucked it over. Who was it? Was it was it DJ Ivy of the Bengals, who was like 5'11". It's amazing. He had a 27 and 28-yard play. The two starting cornerbacks for the Eagles did not look good in this game at all, Adoree Jackson or Keely Ringo. The problem was they were playing the Bengals starting offense. It doesn't go much better for wanting to play Joe Burrow in the preseason. Just Jamar Chase totally dominant, going up and down the field, like highlight reel throws. Burrow goes 9 for 10. So it's very similar to a year ago. It was like awesome offense, awful defense, and special teams was the difference, and they lose.
And I hate that idea because I deep in my heart, I live in Cleveland, but there's nothing I want more right now than for Zach Taylor's team to start the season on the right foot, because they just don't do it.
Right.
And they can do it offensively. And I know it's the preseason, but it is your defensive start. Get it together, defense. Get this thing together before week 1, please.
So the Bengals are part of the trend to play, some more good players at the start of the preseason. And I really do think Chase Brown, their running back, who looked awesome in this game, and it's just sort of dawning on everyone what a monster season he is set up for. That to me, he's like a first round fantasy pick. I know he won't go there, but he could be. Shamar Stewart's looked really good. I think they need to play him a little more with the ones. Let's go to the Jets and the Packers. Jets 30, Packers 10. Jets looking exactly like they said they were gonna look. Run first. They just ran through the Packers, and the Packers were playing a lot of starters, I believe, on both sides of the ball, and they were just pushing them like 6 yards back. So it was everything that the Jets said they were gonna do. They just ran the ball down their throats. It was Justin Fields scrambling. It was Braylon Allen, a little bit of Breece Hall, and I thought the starters on both sides of the ball, for what it's worth, for the Jets, looked pretty good.
What have we talked about? The fact that the Jets are one of my sneaky teams to watch out, because I think they're just going to be a more professional operation, and I think it's going to start with the toughness. And how do you prove your toughness? You win on the ground, and they have the backs to do it. They have invested in the offensive line to do it, and then they have a quarterback who can do it when he finds space to run for a 13-yard touchdown. Obviously, it's just the preseason, but I was pretty excited to see this performance, especially earlier in the game, from a good portion of their starters, and to have the ability down the depth chart to still run the ball pretty effective. I mean, like, look at the number of guys that had carries in this game, and then just like 42 yards, 33 yards, 17 yards, 14 yards, like minimal carries, just spreading it among a bunch of different people. I like this idea. I'm really, really fascinated by this team. I simply am.
I was amazed looking at some of the practice reports on The Athletic this week that Alan Lazard said this is the most talented group of receivers he's ever played with. I mean, this is a group that we've been
concerned about, right?
I mean, that is the biggest bald-faced lie I've ever heard. I mean, maybe he believes it. Everyone, you convince yourself into things. I don't even know if Alan Lazard, is he definitely on this team? He was in a sling, by the way, after the game because of a shoulder injury, but he was playing with the backups. He hasn't done much. They're not going to be great because of their wide receivers, but Brandon Stevens, who's starting, by the way, the former Raven at cornerback, really struggled with the Ravens last year. According to the people there, has had a great training camp, so that's good to hear. Some bad news for the Packers. Jaden Reed, according to their coach Matt LaFleur, is uncertain for week 1. He was in a walking boot at practice over the weekend, so that's unrelated to the game. He did not play in the game, but it was unknown previously that he was so banged up, and so that's really bad news, and it means more on Matthew Golden, who had a couple nice reps in this game. Jordan Love, by the way, playing your starters doesn't mean it's going to work. I think he went 1 for 5.
It didn't work well.
Didn't work for them. Couple drops, just a couple of weird plays there. But yeah, bad news there for Jaden Reed. It sounds like he's a little iffy for the opener.
Yeah, they looked like, offensively with Love on the field, they looked like a bit of a disjointed operation. But yeah, I'm more concerned about this group because, look, you finally spent a first-round pick on a receiver in Matthew Golden, but you know that Christian Watson is out for a while, if not most of the season. And I mean, after that, if Reed's hurt, it's Golden, it's Dobbs, it's Dontavian Wicks, who's hit or miss depending on the situation that you find him in. Savion Williams, I'm a little bit concerned about this group overall. That's not a loss that you can just weather without a decline. Yeah,
and there's been a bunch of banged up players too. The Bo Melton thing is happening, so he's not quite Travis Hunter, Bo Melton. If you're just tuning in, receiver for the Packers who has changed positions to cornerback, and he's out there playing real cornerback spots, and reportedly, according to Matt Schneiderman at The Athletic, is a lock to make the roster. Probably has like a fourth or fifth cornerback, and it doesn't hurt that he has wide receiver flexibility, but just cool that we have one of those guys back in the league. Also, a fourth-round pass rusher, Baron Sorrell, making some noise, having a good game. I just wanted to have one positive thing to say about the Packers before we went to Rams Cowboys, and I said something positive about Mr. August, Stetson Bennett. One of the reasons I went to this Saints-Chargers game, Shook, is because I've seen Stetson Bennett too much live over the last 2 years, and it's been so bad. And it was a treat to turn on my television and watch the greatest preseason trio broadcast team in all of sports.
Yes.
JB Long, Maurice Jones-Drew, and Mina Kimes. And maybe I'm biased. I don't care. I'm right. And you know what I took away other than just enjoying their broadcast? I mean, Stetson Bennett looked like a whole new player. That was by far the best he's ever looked in an NFL uniform. Sometimes maybe with a little bit of patience, we'll see. But he actually might become like a solid backup for them or something, because he was spinning it. That was easily the best he's ever looked.
Let's not forget like a third of a third quarter from Sean McVay, joining the broadcast live from the side.
Oh yeah, he's out.
Let's not forget that, before he passed it off because he had to handle a coaching duty. Stetson Bennett's game reminded me a lot of his Georgia tape, which is that you're kind of living on the razor's edge at times. It's a little like, oh, hold on to the edge of your seat, but it's also
some dimes.
Okay,
though. A couple
he made
dimes.
some plays. He threw some nice balls. He threw a great pass on fourth down the sideline, an incredible catch that had to be reviewed, stood upon review. And then they handed to Blake Corum to finish it off. Blake Corum had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. It was a really strong start from this offense. Just overall, they dominated the Cowboys in the first 20 minutes of this game. Now, there's 2 sides to this coin, of course, because Joe Milton was on the other side struggling to get anything going with that offense and most of the Cowboys' backups. But I was very impressed by what I saw from the Rams. And yeah, maybe he will be a healthy backup. They have Jimmy Garoppolo seated behind Matthew Stafford right now. We know the whole Matthew Stafford situation, the pregame workout over the weekend, that sort of thing.
That's good. That's good.
Progress. But long term, I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe he'll just be a preseason star forever. Who knows?
Maybe. Stafford will practice in some form on Monday, like you mentioned, went through a workout. Yeah, I saw a little clip of Dak before the game talking to Rams owner Stan Kroenke, and he said, "We'll see you in the NFC title game." I was like, oh.
Okay.
I guess it's just one of those things you say, but I like that. I like it. They're gonna.
You got to believe in yourself.
Kevontae Turpin had the night off, which to me kind of said, okay, he's their third receiver. Joe Milton, you mentioned, started this game. He's the backup now, former New England Patriot. They would have had the number 1 overall pick, likely Travis Hunter, maybe Abdul Carter, if not for Joe Milton playing very well against the Bills backups in Week 18. Some of his throws in this game were crazy. I mean, they were crazy. They were like, he has such a strong arm, but he uses that strong arm on every single throw. And it was kind of rough, to be honest. But
Sales won down the middle of the field.
Yeah, he made up for it in the second half and started, scoring some points against the Rams, deep backups. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the one throw that maybe typifies where Joe Milton is in his career right now, with the arm strength being his greatest attribute, is when he dropped back on 2nd and 7, I think, and launched a rocket into the end zone into double coverage for an interception. There were times where I think his best play that he made in this game was on a read option where he took off for a first down. It was not the Joe Milton we saw for the Patriots throwing the ball in the first half. The second half, he started to settle in against lesser competition. But for Cowboys fans who, were banging the table in celebration that, oh my God, we finally got a backup with some legit upside because we got Joe Milton from the Patriots, and look at that tape from that Week 18. Cool your jets. Okay, this is an example of how hard it is.
He's got upside.
Yeah, for sure. But you got to let him develop.
I would probably take Cooper Rush to win a game right now over him, but we'll see. Kyer Elam, I noticed, also sat for this game because he's so locked in as their starting cornerback. So that's just the former Bills first-round pick. Mozzie Smith continues to struggle, former first-round pick for the Cowboys. It just seems like he might be coming to the end of his time. And it really struck me that when Daniel Jeremiah last week was at Cowboys and Rams practice, he's so polite about everything, the way he says things. But he said that the one group in that game that needed some work, like in the joint practice, the Rams offense looked amazing and the Rams defense is flying around, and the Cowboys offense, they made some plays. But that Cowboys defense, like he said it in a very humble way, just was like, they got some things to work on. I was just like, that's a dig from Daniel Jeremiah. Let's go to the Cards and the Chiefs, another team playing a guy in the preseason that really hasn't played much in the past, Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray threw a number of really nice throws, averaged over 11 yards per attempt, and had maybe the worst interception of the entire weekend, including Joe Milton. And yet, after the game, he had a great attitude about it.
Again, I say, having played in the preseason a long time, I've really enjoyed playing tonight, it kind of just football's here again. It's the best time of the year to be able to go out there and just be out there with the guys.
Maybe it's not football is back, but football is here again. I just heard that. I like that. I like the attitude.
I almost sensed a little bit of sarcasm in the way that he said really enjoyed playing tonight with that smile. Like if you
I
YouTube,
think he was serious, man. I think he was serious. That's not nice.
Yeah, he finished the game perfect after throwing that pick, which was nice. He was Kyler. He was what you expect from him, except that interception, which, I mean, I started laughing when I saw it happen live, just because it was like, where was that ball going? But that happens. It's preseason. You have time to work that out. On the quarterback front with the rest of this game, Gardner Minshew replaced Patrick Mahomes after the Chiefs needed like 2 plays to score because the Cardinals fumbled their opening kick. Minshew is Minshew, and I see why they added him. He is still the same guy who can still make a play here and there, and also, again, hanging on the edge of your seat a little bit. But the last thing I was really looking for from the Chiefs was some clarity in the offensive line. Not a lot of snaps for their starting fives. Josh Simmons only played 10 snaps, so I don't think we're going to get a lot of a sample size from them this preseason. They were running in a lot of different guys, especially at right tackle later in the game. It's fun to watch as they try to figure this out, but I think they're pretty close to figuring out 4 of their starting 5 at this point, maybe 3 so far. Simmons, Humphrey, Trey Smith, and then, but we're going to wait and see what the rest of this happens. Just didn't get a lot of sample from them.
Yeah, and Simmons was great in the 10 snaps he had. They'll play more next week. Andy Reid always plays the starters. You got to love, if you're the Chiefs offense, hearing you're going to get one drive, and then that drive happens to start at the 12-yard line or something. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes with an incredible 1-for-1. I think it was like a 3-yard touchdown, a 1-yard touchdown. It was an awesome grab, by the way, by Jason Brownlee, who is battling for a playoff spot. I mean, a roster spot. Both him and Tyquan Thornton, could be as high as, the 3rd or 4th receiver if these injuries don't shake out. Rashee Rice's suspension is still expected to come at some point. Jalen Watson, by the way, their starting cornerback, had a concussion. Christian Fulton is still coming back from an injury this offseason, so they're a little thin at cornerback right now. And another part of that, Kyler presser that caught my attention. He said, "This is the best I've ever felt in an offense." I'll take it. I just like it. We've got Kyler really exuding I love football this year for whatever reason, for a guy that maybe some people thought was a little aloof in the past. So I don't know if something's changed.
Well, we know what the situation's changed. I mean, this is kind of a prove it year for him with this organization.
Sure.
So that would explain it. They were a little sloppy to start. They had 3 penalties for 32 yards in the first 18 minutes of this game. And obviously we talked about the fumbled opening kickoff return that put them in a 7-0 hole immediately. They did kind of figure it out and finished pretty strong, but again, it's a preseason game, so how much do you take away from that? Interesting note to me, LJ Collier seems like he's probably fighting for a roster spot. He was playing in the 3rd quarter of this game, but he recorded a sack. So, nice little feather in the cap there.
I would say that's a bad sign. Yeah,
playing in the 3rd quarter is a bad sign, yeah.
Right. Anyone playing the second half, especially this first week, it's not a great sign. Let's go to Steelers Jaguars. Steelers 21, Jaguars 31-25. Big win for the Steelers. Let's just get right to the biggest news of the day. Cam Little hit a 70-yard field goal. I don't care that it was the preseason. This is the new record.
I know.
It counts as the record.
I hate that we can't count this.
But it's not like the kick would be any harder in the regular season.
Right.
It's not like he did it against backups. No. He nailed that thing. That was outdoors. Amazing. I saw that and I was like, Wait, 70? Wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
It's freaking amazing. Cam Little, you're going to be one of the best kickers in the league. Nice rookie season by Cam Little last year, by the way. Awesome. You somehow took away Travis Hunter being the top story in this game. A game where a top 5 pick played over 10 snaps on both sides of the ball. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous that he's already doing this. I mean, people are already getting used to it, but it's ridiculous. He had a couple short catches. He had another catch taken away by penalty. Nothing really happened. He played 2 series at cornerback after that. So he played offense first, and then he played defense. No one threw at him at cornerback, but it's just cool that this thing's actually happening. Full steam ahead. He's going to play both sides.
A little inside baseball moment here. I believe, I don't know if it's been fixed since then, but live, Travis Hunter was listed as a receiver in Next Gen, wasn't listed as a corner. Luckily, he didn't get thrown at, so I didn't really get to test this out, but I was like, oh God, what if he's in coverage and there's no numbers for him because he's listed as a receiver? It's like Madden. Madden came up with a new ability for him this year. I think it's called Iron Man. It's exclusive to him because he plays both sides of the ball.
What if you're in a fantasy league that has points for tackles and interceptions? Like some people do the individual defensive players. So does Travis Hunter count as just one guy? Ooh. I would think so. You don't have to draft Shohei Ohtani in fantasy as like a pitcher and a hitter, right? He just counts as one, I think. I don't know. So that's what they should do. It was very interesting. Travis Etienne got all the reps with the starters and Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, I thought, looked solid in this game. Weird. Eric Armstead still hasn't come back from his injury. Might not play week 1. Brenton Strange, who supposedly has had a really big camp, is their tight end 1 for the Jaguars and had a big play in this game. And I noted our friend John Shipley said Parker Washington, he was trying to pick who has had the breakout summer of anyone on this team. And he thought Parker Washington, who's their third receiver, slot guy mostly, and Trayvon Walker, he thought were the 2 best players so far.
Interesting that Walker commented a few days ago about money doesn't motivate him because he's essentially playing for his next contract right now. I actually like that. I think that being motivated by production when you're a former number 1 overall pick is probably more important than money. So that's something to keep an eye on. Is this his year that he really delivers after falling short of expectations?
It's gotten better and better, though. It's been a steady climb.
Yeah, but it's not when you're drafted before Aiden Hutchinson, and then Aiden Hutchinson becomes who he is. They're always going to hold that against you. The Parker Washington thing, I love little receivers, especially ones who come from Big Ten schools that nobody really knows about, and then they make a few plays like one season, and suddenly they're the heartthrob of that local fan base. So good for him.
Well, they really would be deep because they have De'Ami Brown, remember, and then Travis Hunter's at wide receiver. So that's a nice group if Brenton Strange is better at tight end with Brian Thomas Jr. The touchdown by Darnell Washington in this game was just like, I love Darnell Washington. He's like a 6th offensive lineman. He's just a beast. And it looked like him going up against me. I mean, the cornerback that he like just bodied for position was like 5'11", 180. But compared to Darnell Washington, he just looked like a little midget. We got to do more with Darnell Washington in the year 2025. And then finally, my last point on this game, Shook. I just want to love something in my life as much as Pittsburgh Steelers reporters love Mason Rudolph and swear he's the best backup quarterback in the league.
I mean, yeah, I mean, this is a guy who's curried a lot of favor with them over the years, especially when he had to step in when they didn't have anybody at quarterback a few years ago. He left, he came back. He's on the Tre'Davious White path back to the old town that loves him. If you watch Hard Knocks last week, you saw plenty of that. But he also was overshadowed by, I cannot believe I'm saying this in the year of our Lord 2025, Skylar Thompson's 3 touchdown passes and 233 yards. I'm never going to. We should probably move on. Yeah, let's move on. I'm not even going to go further.
Caleb Johnson, by the way, their rookie running back, 10 touches, I think 26 yards, 10 touches and targets combined. So that's not ideal. Let's move on to the Seahawks and the Raiders, our second tie of the week. This was back on Thursday night. The Raiders starters, Geno, Ashton Genty, were barely out there, but they did not get anything done. If you wanted a takeaway from the Seahawks, probably that Torrey Horton, who Daniel Jeremiah shouted out last week on 40s and Free Agents. kept that momentum going. Like he is a story. He looks like he's emerging as a receiver for them. And then it just looks like a Clint Kubiak offense or a Gary Kubiak offense. Fullback, under center, play action. So you just kind of like saw what the Seahawks are going to look like. That was about it. But the first teamers, at least on Seattle's side, I'm getting my sides confused with Geno coming back there and Pete Carroll. It's just like they all just seem like one team here.
Oh, yeah, that is kind of weird. I know there was some attention paid to how they greeted the fans when they came out of the tunnel. Google that if you're interested.
Yeah, Geno flipped off someone who had a sign that said, like, who's the biggest bust in NFL history, like Jamarcus Russell or Geno Smith? And I was like,
Ooh.
First of all, I thought Seahawks fans kind of loved Geno for the most part.
Yeah.
Second of all, like, that's an insane...
He didn't trade himself.
Well, also, Geno Smith just played very well for you for a few years. Like, he's not even... And he was a second-round pick. Like, obvious... It's almost silly to factually go after this poster. But Geno Smith was a second-round pick who just played at, like, a Pro Bowl level for the last 3 years compared to... Yeah, shut up. I'll shut up. I wasn't going to bring that up, but you brought it up. It made me mad.
I had to bring it up because that was my biggest memory from this experience that happened in Seattle over the weekend. That's where we are in the preseason. That's where we are. The change uniform and your fans that used to love you, they loved your soundbite on Monday Night Football. Now they hate you. Not loyal.
Jalen Milroe had like a 27-yard run in this game like it was nothing. So just
that was his greatest strength at Alabama. Put a foot in the ground and take off.
And then I don't know if there was a QB2 battle for the Raiders, but Aiden O'Connell had 2 just awful interceptions. And then Cam Miller, who I know nothing about really, but was handpicked in part by Tom Brady, was a Tom Brady approved 6th-round quarterback, comes in and is great late. Gets him back in the game, has to do a quick drive to give him a chance. It gets blocked at the buzzer, but at least it got close. Maybe this is the start of a Tom Brady-like career.
Well, he was picked later than Tom Brady, picked 215. Gregg, if you could guess any school that he's from, could you just pick one?
Well, I read about it like twice this weekend, and yet I still can't remember off the top of my head.
It's the home of Trey Lance, North Dakota State.
Okay.
Carson Wentz, too.
Actually. That's a quarterback factory.
Yeah.
Dante Thornton, by the way, for the Raiders, kind of set as their starter. And then there was like a part of this game where there were 3 linebackers on the field for the Raiders, or at least on the depth chart, it looks like. And the 3 linebackers are Jermaine Pratt, Devin White, and Landon Roberts. And I'm thinking, like, what year is this?
Yep.
And that you're playing 3 linebackers? Jamal Adams had a good game. I don't know.
Pete Carroll said Devin White's back. So, prove it to me, Devin. Yeah, I think the Jamal Adams addition, by the way, is probably the most Pete Carroll move that the Raiders have made since he's taken over. And
he was flying around there. I'm happy for him. It would be nice for him to just have a nice season as like a useful player for them because he was a great player whose career went on the skids so hard. I did not think he was going to get another job in the NFL, but Pete Carroll is at least giving him a chance. All right, let's talk Lions 17, Falcons 10. The big takeaway from this game, unfortunately, was Maurice Norris, the player for the Lions who the game was suspended for because he was out on the field. The game stopped. Eventually, he was put on a stretcher and left. Details were not forthcoming, but when Dan Campbell said after the game, very emotional, that Morris was breathing and had all his feeling extremities. The phrase breathing really struck me there, and I think everyone was just very worried in the moment, and it's a very strange scene where at first the Lions and Falcons were like running clock just to have the game end, and then the NFL stepped in and just did end the game. So it sounds like he's better. He's been talking with his teammates from the hospital, and we just wish him a full recovery. And there weren't a lot of other like huge takeaways for me football wise in this game, Nick. Kyle Allen is the backup quarterback right now, I think, for the Lions, because Hendon Hooker just kind of can't get it going. He started this game and he had a couple fumbles.
Allen threw a really nice touchdown pass to Isaac Tesla, who is probably one of my favorite guys out of this rookie class. He's looked good in both of his preseason games so far. He's a Lions fan, which is always fun to like match the diehard fan with their team when they become a pro. He had a really nice touchdown grab, 2 catches for 18 yards, but the touchdown grab. Keep an eye on him. I think that he's going to find ways to contribute. Yeah, I think he's going to find ways to contribute in this offense, especially first year post Ben Johnson. Just keep an eye on him.
It's easy to just like bring up some tape at this time of year. It's just like, oh, I want to go see what Isaac Taslad did this week. Oh, it was only 2 targets. Let's go watch it. Or 3 targets. Let's go watch it. Oh, I want to watch Cam Ward start. I didn't watch that live. Oh, 9 dropbacks. Boop. Press the button. All right. That takes like 5 minutes. It's fantastic. Pretty soon it'll be 65 dropbacks or whatever it is. It'll be crazy. I want to give the Falcons some note because every team gets some notes if they're listening. Casey Washington has been the Darnell Mooney replacement and looks like he's going to make this team like a 3rd or 4th receiver. There's some spots open, according to AtlantaFalcons.com, at 2 of the defensive back spots. Rookies Xavier Watts at safety and Billy Bowman at nickel have a chance to win these spots, but they have not cemented them. But the Falcons are sticking with not playing a lot of starters in the preseason or even backups. So there's not much more for me to take from this game.
If I had to pick one to win a job at Xavier Watts, he was a stud in college. I think that his play style transitions very well to the next level. And I think that he'll pretty quickly, maybe by the end of preseason, take that job. He was a monster at Notre Dame. I love that pick when they added him. I think he'll take that job.
All right, wrapping up with the Patriots and the Commanders. Patriots 48, Commanders 18. Mike Vrabel's diving into piles, during fights, getting bloody, and then they're coming out and they're sending a message in the preseason week 1.
How do we feel about Travion Henderson returning kicks? I mean, obviously we feel great because he took it back 100 yards.
He scored a touchdown on his first touch.
I know, but also, do you want to do that?
Yes, because to me, he's a secondary running back for now. Ramondre Stevenson looked awesome in this game. Ramondre Stevenson is one of those guys that either looks awesome or doesn't look good.
Or fumbles.
And you can see it. Or fumbles. But, you can see it. It's his weight's changed, over the years. And he looked great. He had 3 great runs in this game. So they're going to use him both. Travion Henderson had a big week of practice. And he also had a catch, I believe. It wasn't a run, where he just delivered a blow to some poor Washington cornerback who I think he might have concussed. But it just was like, wow, this guy can not only has the speed, but can play with some real power. So I think that's going to be what they want to build their offense off is those 2 guys and Antonio Gibson as the 3rd running back and in a offensive line led by Will Campbell. That's better run blocking probably than it is pass blocking. That's Will Campbell's at least MO, and I think some of the other guys on the offensive line as well.
That explains why they invested in Henderson after paying Ramondre too. That's an identity shift. If we're sorting out this receiver position, Efton Chisholm, I feel like that's not quite one of your guys because Kyle Williams is your guy, and I don't think you can have 2 guys in the same team. That's just my rule that I'm making up right now on the fly. Yeah. But Efton Chisholm with 6 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown, maybe making a bit of noise.
And a ridiculous catch at Sunday's practice that got all over the Patriots interwebs where, he gets super vertical, more than I would have expected, catches it at its high point, gets his feet in bounds. Right now, I don't think Kendrick Bourne is making this team. They could maybe get something for Kendrick Bourne, maybe not on this contract, actually. And by something, I mean like a late-round pick swap. I don't think Jalen Polk, who got hurt in this game, is making this team, although they might be able to just stash him on injured reserve. And so at this point, I think Efton Chisholm has a pretty good chance to make this team as a 6th receiver. Maybe Javon Baker, who's a special teamer, is battling him there. But I think they're deep enough at receiver. I don't know if they're good enough, but I think they are deep enough.
I think that if teams that are needing receivers are looking somewhere, they should direct their eyes to Foxborough.
Yeah, there's a couple
because there's some talent there.
Yeah, Matt Collins is that wide receiver, sort of tight end hybrid almost that's starting. And Drake May, by the way, in the joint practices, everyone was all fired up in New England after the joint practices that the offense probably had their best day in the joint practices against Washington than they've been having against themselves. But something similar happened in the game, Nick, which is that Drake May's played really well, moved the ball, except for having a big turnover. And he had a bad fumble early in this game, despite the score, where his 2 rookie offensive linemen up front Campbell and Jared Wilson seemed to get confused on a stunt, and the pressure got right to May, but he had to just take the sack, and instead he just kind of started doing something crazy, and he lost the fumble.
Do we have something good to say about the Commanders here?
Nope, just Patriots all the time because I have so many Patriots notes. They had like 3 tight ends. I don't know if Kyle Duggar is going to make this team. That is a prediction. I think Kyle Duggar will be traded. They will be able to get something for Kyle Duggar. I think Kyle Duggar and Anthony Jennings, who started a lot of games, will both be traded. Kyle Duggar for more than Jennings. Could you get like a 4th round pick for Kyle Duggar?
Yeah, I think that
he's had some good. I mean, he was good enough to get a monster contract from them not long ago, but
I think a 4th is a safe fly. I don't think it would go as. I mean, I don't know. I think like the Browns once traded a 5th for Amari Cooper, so it really depends on who you're dealing with. But 4th feels maybe right. Late 4th,
like he in the right role, he can really make a difference, but he just does not seem to fit what they want to do, and they're now playing him with backups and stuff. So it's just like, okay, I don't think they have a role for him. To answer your Washington question, Jaden Daniels reportedly looked really good in those joint practices too, but it's a lot of Eckler and Ertz. You know, they could use their wide receiver Terry McLaurin to be back and someone else to step up. Noah Brown's been out, and they really miss Noah Brown, which is a bad sign. Luke McCaffrey just isn't happening. And Trey Amos, here's something positive. Their rookie cornerback has reportedly been a consistent bright spot, immediate starter, just really looks like a veteran, like even though he's a rookie. So I'm excited to watch him play.
Yeah, they need that because a lot of that defense is veterans. Like if you run through their starting 11 with Amos involved, you have a ton of guys who have played a lot of football in the NFL to this point in their career. Not a lot of young guys other than like Mikey Sanders still. So yeah, adding Amos into the lineup, if that's a win, like acquiring a player in the offseason, a rookie, and he can be a starter, that's a huge win for you. Because eventually, not this year, but time comes for everybody. You're gonna have to turn over that roster. You need some young guys to be able to stick and produce quickly.
I'm glad you made that point because I had a note from, I believe this, I'm not sure who this was from, that the average age of their free agent pickups this year
old.
Was 30.
Yeah.
30 on average.
I got heat. I went on DC radio this week and I compared them to the 2007 Browns because that was a veteran-laden team. And the only difference is that Derek Anderson was the quarterback of that team. He was obviously not a superstar like Jaden Daniels is. And I got pushed back in that, obviously they're flying, high after what happened last season. They believe that, they're just like the 2008 Browns did, Super Bowl. And so they don't want to be compared to them because the team that followed the 2007 Browns went 4-12. But this is why, because they're old. And especially on defense, they're very old because Dan Quinn wants proven guys that he knows can come run his defense. And I'm just saying there are pitfalls to that approach.
They do have Jaden Daniels.
They do. And that's the big difference.
Who did the Browns have?
They had Derek Anderson and Brady Quinn.
Yeah.
Johnny
Newton, he's young. One of my favorite draft picks last year, kind of had an up and down rookie year, was playing in this game when most of the starters were not. So maybe not a great sign, but he did have a sack. So is he going to have a role? I hope so. Their first round pick, Josh Connerly, was rotating in practice with Andrew Wiley. And then we will wrap this entire update. We hit all 32 teams with a Bill update. And if you forgot, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who I was saying, let's follow this guy. He's the type of guy that you want to watch in the preseason. He didn't really have a great game.
No.
The blocking was bad for him. I saw the energy, but we want more out of week 2 of Bill. But
yeah.
He was the most random player that I typed up and was like, all right, let's watch the Krosky-Merritt snaps. Let's watch his...
That's like a Damon Sheehy Giuseppe reference right there. Once took a punt back for a touchdown in a preseason game. The guy who lied his way onto an NFL team. Ran a fast
I thought
40.
he actually, for 24 yards on 7 carries, I thought he looked pretty good. He also had an 8-yard catch, but not a lot of room. Rugged. I'm excited to watch what he has.
I want to circle back, by the way, to Connerly real quick, just because he was one of my favorite tackles in this class, especially because of the way he moved at the combine. Put together some good tape, just little snippets of good tape in his first preseason action because he can move, and he moved well. There was a play there where he went from one block to another seamlessly, very swiftly. I like what Washington has in him.
I like what we have in you, Shookie. You came from that wedding hours away. You stayed sober. You made it happen for the listeners. We will be back next Sunday night recapping preseason week 2. Play the music. We also will be back Monday.
And we
Big
may get an
week coming
update
up.
if
Big
I
show.
upset my
Couple shows
hand.
I'm really
for leaving.
excited about. Starting with a QB tiers show. Mike Sando's got those QB tiers where he gets all the smart people to do it. I'm going to go against Mike Sando with my QB tiers. Look, when we're talking Krosky Barrett, you know football's